and welcome back to AR77. Today we're talking about pellet guns, and in particular we're going to try and assess, or I'm going to try and assess, which is my favourite out of my collection of pellet guns in particular. Which is my favourite? Which do I enjoy owning the most? Now, a bit of a disclaimer, knowing what I'm like, I may well struggle to narrow it down to just one gun. All the guns we're looking at today are .177 caliber pellet shooting. I was going to say replica air guns. They're not all strict replicas. You'll figure out what I mean a bit later on in the video. But if they're not replicas, then they are quite close to actual authentic pistols, I suppose. All CO2 powered. I might have mentioned that before. Most of the mags of these guns are out, because when I got them out of the cupboard today, it dawned on me, do you know what, some of these I haven't fired for quite a while, so I'm going to have a bit of a sesh after the video and enjoy a lot of fun plinking. So let's start here with these two guns on the table. Now I was trying to remember when I was thinking about the video in what order I got these guns, and I think these two were the first I got. I'm tempted to say the very first pellet gun I ever got was this. This is the Walther CP88 by Umarex, and I know it splits opinion, this gun. Some people think it's horrific. I happen to think it's beautiful. One of the nicest looking guns on the market still, in my opinion. Probably because I'm a bit old-fashioned, and I like the fact there's no rail there. I like the sort of simplicity of the gun itself. It's a really heavy weight, nice and full metal. No intrusive writing. Everything's just etched there onto the slide. It says CP88 rather than P88, and this is kind of a replica of the compact P88 by Walther. A lovely gun. Like I said, very good weight. It is a relatively compact gun, although I wouldn't call it small. But obviously, there's a longer barreled version in reality, and this is a kind of a copy of the shorter barreled version. It feels really nice in the hand. It's got, as I said, probably 3 times already, a really lovely weight to it. Decent enough sights. You've not got a white dot. Let me just try and get that. You've not got a white dot, but they're clear enough to see. And it shoots pretty well. It's pretty accurate. Obviously, with these being pellet pistols, they're going to be, more often than not, a bit more accurate than your BBs, your BB guns. They're still, these aren't for hunting or anything like that. These are still really just plinking guns. But you can expect, obviously, with the rifled barrel and the shape of the pellets and things, you can expect them to be less subjected to things like wind and stuff like that than perhaps a BB. And they've obviously got the sort of the tail on the end of the pellet, which helps it to move through the air. So there you go. So I think this was probably my first, and I got this, I think, because it was this second hand? I'm trying to think back now. I probably said on the review, I think this was second hand, and because these are quite expensive, these Umarex guns of this type, the sort of the 8-shot rotary magazine ones, the full metal, I think they're made in Germany. In fact, does it say anywhere here? Yes, it does. It says made in Germany. I think that is true of the actual Umarex gun itself. They're quite expensive, so this came up second hand, and I was really pleased to get my hands on it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not bent up or scratched or anything like that. I think it's seen very little use before I got my grubby mitts on it. I think these front slide serrations, I don't think they exist on the real steel, but I think part of that is the way that these are loaded. You just slide the slide forward like that. That's not an actual exposed sort of barrel. The slide moves forward like that, and you drop in one of these. You put 8 pellets in there, and that just drops in, and you close it back up, and that's why I think those serrations are there, just to make that a bit of a simpler job. So a really lovely gun. I do very much enjoy owning that, but there is a bit of an issue when you're holding in your hand something that kind of looks like a semi-automatic pistol, and yet after 8 rounds you're kind of stuck. Now, to be fair, I'm not sure what capacity these had originally, the actual real steel. I know that the 1911 carried 7 rounds initially. I know you can get bigger ones now, but higher capacity ones now. But I think this would have carried more than that amount of rounds. And we're also kind of spoilt these days, aren't we? We get used to having, 1920 BBs in our guns. So 8 pellets doesn't always float my boat. I've got quite a few spare mags for that, and it's dead easy to change them out. They literally just pop out and then just drop one in. You don't have to be particularly careful how you seat it, really. Just sort of drop it in and it gets hold of it and engages. But I wanted a little bit more firepower, which I think is why I moved to this next. Another really good gun. I have to say, I love all the guns on the table today. This is my Beretta PX4 Storm. Again, made by Umarex, but a slightly different kettle of fish. This has a rotary magazine still, but it does have an actual working slide. Have I got my safety on there? Yes, I have. What a good boy. This has a working slide, so when you pull the trigger, it will blow back, and you get that kind of reciprocation and a bit of a kick in your hand, so it feels a little more pleasurable to shoot than perhaps the CP88. Once again, it is a rotary mag. Where do I have it here? Yeah, it is a rotary mag, and you can see you've got eight rounds there, but you've also got 8 in the other side. So similar in some ways to the other end, I should say, not the other side. Similar in some ways to the CP88, having its kind of 8-round rotary mag, but because it's a stick mag, they've got 8 rounds at either end. So it's bang, 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 up to 8 times, then drop your mag, turn it over, stick it back in, you've got another 8. So it's a bit more capacity. Well, it's twice the capacity, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's exactly twice the capacity, and a relatively quick change. Although with these ones, you can get pretty quick at just throwing out a mag or a cylinder or whatever you want to call it, and throwing another one in. But this also carries the sort of the feeling of dropping a mag and putting a mag back in like you would with the real steel. This is a really nice gun. A couple of things about it. Sometimes the mag doesn't seem to just sit just firmly enough in it for my liking. It feels a bit loosey-goosey in there, and maybe that's just this particular one. I may have got this second-hand as well. And there's things like the safety there. That's like a standard Umarex safety, not one that is in keeping with the actual Beretta PX4 Storm. Also, you've got your safety on there that doesn't really do anything. Your actual kind of Beretta safety doesn't do anything. It does have a kind of a cut-out ejection port there, so that's something. But you can't see through it, and because it is essentially a revolver, the way these pellet guns work, it's not going to lock back after your last shot. It is going to just slide back to the forward position. But a lot of fun to shoot. Single, double action. This, yeah, great gun, and it's a lovely looking pistol as well. Looks very sort of tactical, almost kind of alien-like. A nice bit of design once again from Beretta. Really love that, and it looks unlike anything else I have in my collection. So that's why I got the PX4 Storm. Another great pellet pistol. Right, let me put that down and I'll bring something else out for you. Ah, yes, I know exactly where I'm going next. I'm going to this little beauty, the Sig Sauer P226. I hope you're getting a good view of that pistol because it looks awesome. Big fan of the shape of Sigs, as I've said a million times before. I like this kind of high bore axis at the back here. I like this kind of cutout here, which I think I mentioned on a recent video about the Smith & Wesson. They kind of I would say have a similar sort of thing on the M&P. I like that sort of, just a bit of design to the slide there. A really lovely gun, really nice in black, and I think you can get this in. I think it's full dark earth. Is it the colour you can get it in? And it's just really solid, really heavyweight guns. And and it operates very similarly, or in a similar way, to the PX4 Storm. If I show you, where are we? There's your PX4 Storm magazine, and here is your Beretta P226 magazine. Very similar, but not identical, and they don't fit in each other's pistols as far as I'm aware. I could check that now, but do you know what? I'm not going to bother, because I'm pretty sure they don't sit properly. And personally, I think you should stick to the manufacturer's version, really. Manufacturer's version, not try and put a square peg in a round hole, or whatever the saying is. So yeah, you got the Navy SEALs kind of marking on it there. This has got the kind of silencer threaded end to the barrel there, so you can attach a kind of a faux silencer if you want. You'll see that in a lot of films and a lot of computer games. It's a really lovely classic shape, and it's kind of, when somebody says to me SIG, I think up until very recently, this is the gun I would have pictured. These days, I'm probably picturing the 320, and sad to say, I don't have one of those in my collection still. After all this time, I still don't have a P320 or a P250. I think I'll probably just go straight to the 320, actually. But I digress. Once again, nice markings on it. You do have, with that stick mag, you do have 8 rounds and 8 rounds, so you've got 16 round capacity. It is blowing back as well, and it's a decent poppy kind of blowback. You can do single, double action, loosely speaking, single action. And it's going to slide back each time, and it feels amazing in your hand. It feels absolutely amazing. Just a shame, though, once again, that it's not going to lock back after that last round, and we don't have a cut-out ejection port. I don't see that would have been a big issue for them just to pop that in. It would make such a big difference to the way the gun looks. I know it seems like a little thing, but I really do think it would make a big difference, because it's scoring points in so many other ways. Look at the writing there again, etched in. No white writing there, it's just etched in. It's classic, black, timeless design. That a really good gun. Now, I can't bring that out without bringing out its stablemate in some ways. It's a bigger gun, but it's also a SIG, and this is the Sig X5. Let me just move that one up a little bit. These were kind of brought out not that far apart, really. Again, a heavy metal construction, and at the time, obviously, SIG were enjoying this kind of loading gate in the back there with this kind of cantilever, and then you click it shut, and that's how you pierce your CO2. So your CO2 is separate from the mag, and likewise here, it's the same system. It's a really good design, actually. It means that when you're changing your CO2, it's pretty quick to do. It's a pretty straightforward way of switching out your gas. You just got to make sure that you've got it in straight and you're not puncturing it in the wrong place and kind of purging all your CO2. But once again, a lovely design, lovely big gun, lovely big shape. Operates in a very similar way to the 226, and again, it just doesn't have that cut out ejection port. Really nice gun. You've got that kind of silver going through to the kind of inner barrel there, or the faux inner barrel. Not recessed, that, and neither is really the 226. If I show you the other end of it, just like that, it's kind of not really recessed. One good thing about the 226 is we have a working decocker, so that's quite a nice touch. Decocker there. Oh, I should point this out as well. I think I pointed this out in a comparison video with the PX4 Storm. This safety here also works as a decocker, so that's a nice touch. Now, I really love both of these guns because they are SIG, and that's kind of the main reason. I love the weight, I love the heavy metal weight of them, but it's because they carry that SIG name, and they are pretty good replicas, especially the 226. It's such a good replica of the real steel in all but a couple of areas. It's really pleasant gun to own and to shoot. Not the most accurate pellet pistol I've got, but pretty good nevertheless. But while it's on the table, there is an alternative to the P226, and that would be this gun here. Now, I said before, it's not, not all of these guns are replicas, and this is the only one really that isn't a direct replica of any particular real steel firearm. But it looks pretty close in design, I think you'd agree, to the P226, especially at the barrel end with this kind of shrouded barrel with the silencer fitting on there. That is a little bit recessed though. That's quite a nice recessed barrel. This is the SA10 by Umarex, and it is once again a blowback pellet pistol. Good sights on this one. Nice little kind of day glow orange, almost fluorescent orange at the back there, and they complement that lovely kind of brass outer barrel. Let me get that on camera. But it's an alternative. If you were just looking for a pellet pistol, it doesn't look too dissimilar. So if you like that style of gun without liking that exact gun, you might want to consider that. Also, the other benefit is the magazine with this one. It's like that. It carries 4 of, where are they? These. So you get 3 that are kind of metal. Do you get 3? Yeah. Did I buy extras? Maybe I bought extras. I've got 4 of these anyway, with the metal kind of central bit there, and you've got 8 rounds in each of those. So that's 8, 16, 24, 32 rounds, as opposed to just 16 in the Sig. So that might be something that you take into consideration if you're buying. You could put a torch or a laser on both of those. They both blow back. Neither of them lock back, but they've both got pretty easy to load CO2. On this one, we've got the cantilever, and on the SA10, we've got a tab there, and your CO2 just goes in there and you just tighten that up. So it's all self-enclosed and all housed. Both really good guns, and kind of show a bit of an evolution really from the the single cylinder or revolver CP88. You can see how that has moved from 8 to kind of 16, and then a bit of blowback to the P226, 16 rounds and a bit of blowback, to something like this where you've also got a cut-out barrel, which is another nice touch. Cut-out slide, I should say, like a faux ejection port there. So you can see how pellet guns, during the time that I've been collecting them, have evolved, which brings me to some of the more recent pellet guns, and I am getting to the point where I'm thinking, right, which of these is my favourite, because I've loved everything that I've shown you so far, but I'm going to have to make a decision. So let's keep going and see how we get on. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the Glock 17 Gen 5 by Umarex and T4E Systems. This is, again, .177 caliber, silicon oil coated replica pellet pistol. This has a 21 round belt fed magazine. Your pellets go into that belt and that rotates as you fire, which means your round count is now at 21, which is a very respectable count. With this, you've got a really lovely, realistic feel and weight. You are getting blowback. You do have your cut-out ejection port. That looks exactly like the real thing, apart from perhaps that protruding barrel at the end there. Well, it's not quite protruding, but it's hardly recessed very much. Such a lovely gun, and treat it nicely, get it lubed up, get some silicone oil on it. It'll work just fine for you. I really enjoy owning this. Once again, great sights, great Glock sights. That has to be a contender for... we're going to lose the camera once again. has to be a contender for the top spot. And yet, it's another semi-auto which, after the last shot, will not lock back. It just will not lock back. I don't know enough about how these guns are made to understand why they don't make them just lock back, even if it's for an arbitrary reason, even if that's something they do. I guess it's something to do with the fact that the gun can't tell if the last round has been shot because of the rotary nature of the magazine. I think it must be something to do with that. But please help clarify that for me. Again, I'm not an engineer, I'm not an expert, but I think it must be something to do with the gun not being able to recognise when the last round has been shot. If somebody figures that out and they can get a pellet gun to lock back, I think they'll probably sell quite a few units if the rest of the gun is up to the challenge. So there always seems to be, with all of these guns, something that gets in the way of not your enjoyment, because all of these are great, but there always seems to be something that gets just a little bit of it in the way of the authenticity. Be it a slide that isn't really a slide, be it the fact that the ejection port isn't really cut out, be it the fact that even when you have got a blowback gun, the slide isn't staying back in that rear position, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something like I don't know, your safety. That isn't the safety that you would find on the actual gun. None of these things can get, massively in the way of your enjoyment. And if you haven't been thinking this already, there is a category of guns that do hit all the bases when it comes to that replica nature, when it comes to everything being in the right place and looking how it should. And those guns are revolvers. Look at that beast. Smith & Wesson model 629 classic edition. Lovely stainless finish to it. It looks just like the real steel. Got a nice recessed barrel at that end. You've got everything in the right place here. Your cylinder release is in the right place. This is a shell loading revolver, so you get to do the actual loading of shells. It cocks and rotates just like the real thing. It shoots just like the real thing. Single action or double action. Nice red dot on the front sight there. All this etching, all this lovely information here does everything that we'd want it to do. It looks just the part, doesn't it? So if you're looking for 100% accuracy from a replica point of view, I think you're probably going to have to end up getting a revolver. But I understand revolvers don't float everybody's boats. So what do I think is my favourite pellet revolver? This. I'm going to do a bit of a shout out to two other guns that I don't have on the table, and they are the Umarex Legends S25 and the Umarex Legends S40, both of which are lovely guns, both pellet shooters, both do everything that you would expect them to do and look nice and realistic, with the exception of not so much a recessed barrel on the S25, but they are lovely guns. They're just not a direct replica of any real world firearm. They look similar to kind of a Model 66 or something like that, I think it is, by Smith & Wesson, but their cylinders seem a bit small in comparison. So yeah, honourable mention because they are lovely, but this revolver is one fine ass replica. It's just a beauty to behold, and it's such a big gun as well. That's crazy. It's ridiculous. Yeah, a lovely piece for anyone's collection, that the Model 629 by Smith & Wesson via Umarex. Really good gun, lovely grips, and everything is kind of 100% in terms of replica. For those of you who prefer your semi-automatics, I do have another blowback semi-automatic replica in .177 caliber pellets, and this is probably my favourite in terms of replica nature, you know, and hitting all the right switches. This is the Sig Sauer M17, and this is a lovely gun. You can see it there in this kind of coyote brown. Guess what? We have cut-out ejection port. Well done, Sig. We've got great sights there. We can rack the slide. That's going to blow back. You can even take this gun down. You can take the slide off and reveal the barrel inside there. Lovely two-tone finish and a remarkable magazine, really. You've got a 20-round mag. How do we get it out there? You've got your 20-round mag there. Your pellets go in there. And your CO2 is housed in there. Lock that up and you are good to go. Really nice gun. I think it's not as new as, let's say, the Glock that I just showed you. I bought that more recently, and I love that. I love the 21-round capacity magazine. I like the way it shoots. I find it to be very accurate, nice and powerful. But I think I prefer the Sig. Now that's a bit of personal preference, probably. I just really like that gun. I like the fact that it's got the cut-out port. I like the colours of it. It looks, again, because of my lighting, it looks a bit kind of yellowy in here, but it actually looks a lot nicer in the flesh. So if you do see one in a shop, have a look at it. So I think these two, and this might divide opinion once again, I think these two are my favourite replica pellet guns to shoot, to look at, to own. And I did say I'd struggle, didn't I? I said I'd struggle to narrow it down because I started the video knowing that there was another one in my collection that, for whatever reason, brings me an enjoyment of ownership, even though it doesn't do everything right. Let me get these off the table and I'll show you what it is. That is the Beretta 92 FS, finished in nickel. Also, surprise, surprise, made by Umarex. Similar in every way, from a functioning point of view, to the CP88 that I showed you earlier. Similar in every way to that, in the way that it functions. Your CO2 is moused. Your CO2 is housed in the in what looks like the kind of the grip there. If you just press your what looks like a mag release, it pops that off, and you put your CO2 in there. Tighten it up. In fact, you have to pop that down first. Tighten it up all the way as far as you can, and then that does the last bit of the work. And again, it's one of those. You just open the slide there. It's not a true slide, and you drop in an 8-shot rotary magazine. So, what's going on here then? Slide doesn't work properly. It's not like a proper slide. There's no full-size mag to drop out or put back in. There's no blowback here. It does very little. But what it does very well. When you hold that, it feels unreal. That is such a lovely weight. It's great to shoot that gun. It's a real pleasure to own it. The finish on it, the nickel finish, I like it in black. I've seen them in chrome as well. I've seen them in gold. I'm not about all of that. This is a lovely finish, this nickel finish. It's not too shiny. It's just kind of bling enough. And there's something about the 92 FS that really floats my boat, I think, because it's, you know, one of those movie guns that I kind of grew up with. It's just such a lovely piece, is that. Everything about it, the fact that it's got these black details on it. I know you can get kind of wood grips for these, and they look lovely, you know, with the kind of the gold Beretta symbol in there, and they look fantastic. But personally, I don't necessarily prefer these. I just think they do look great with all the black kind of fixtures and fittings. Such a lovely gun, and for that reason, it transcends all the other criticisms I would give another gun. Yeah, it doesn't do everything, but it's such a beauty that it sits as one of the favourites, perhaps along with those other two, perhaps even higher. I just really like that gun. There's a bit of a problem here, isn't there, though, because we haven't seen one 1911. Now, I know that Umarex do a 1911 like that, and like the CP88. They kind of brought them out all roughly around the same sort of time, within a couple of years of each other, I think. And they got the Colt 1911 government. It's not for me. With the replica BB guns I've got that are really close replicas to 1911s, and yes, I'm talking about KWCs again, they're enough for me until somebody can bring out a really good 1911 pellet gun. The thing is, I'm a bit picky now. This is really good as pellet guns go, and I can forgive all the lack of features in this because it just looks so beautiful. When I've got such great 1911s, though, it's going to take something really special to beat that. And I've seen the ones that have, do they have kind of 12 round rotary magazines, or they might even be 16 rounds, and you shoot some of them and then you rotate the top bit of the mag and then you can keep going. I've seen those. I don't own one. I've never held one in my hand, but they look okay. Again, the Umarex one looks like a lovely gun, and I'm sure it's put together very well, just like this is. But for me, I think I'm probably waiting for something a bit else from a 1911 style pellet gun. If anyone out there is aware of one, please don't hesitate to get in touch and let me know, because it's the sort of thing I would snap up in a jiffy. But yeah, there we go. A long video. I'm going to stop apologising for making long videos, because I don't have to, do I? So yeah, it is a long video. I hope you've enjoyed looking at these guns with me. Let's take that out of the way and bring it back to the two showstoppers, really. Two lovely pellet guns. If somebody says to me they don't make very nice looking pellet guns that are replicas, that do pretty much everything that the real steel does, I'll show you a liar. That is the M17 by Sig Sauer, 20 round capacity. That is the M629 by Smith & Wesson, and released by Umarex. Hope you enjoyed the video. Please do comment, share your opinions. Which are your favourites from the ones I've shown you on the table today? Do you have other ones that I don't own and you go, do you know what, you need to get your hands on one of these? These are really good too. Let me know. Please like, share, subscribe. As always, please do stay safe, look after yourselves. All the very best. Take care. Bye.